Great. So I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Raleigh Planning Board for Wednesday, February 15th, 2017 at 7:30. We've got 3 public hearings on the agenda tonight. A little unique in that we don't have any of our typical business. We're not dealing with any applications or petitions, but we're here to discuss some zoning bylaw amendments that are being proposed by the Zoning Review Committee and are going to be discussed and open for a vote at the next town meeting, which is May
1st.
May 1st. Okay, so first item.
We see town officials here, but we don't see too many townspeople.
I have 3 mothers coming.
Okay.
I went to the PTA meeting last night.
All right. So
Nobody wants to come out today.
first, so I have to read the notice of the public hearing. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, the Raleigh Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 15th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. in the meeting room at the Raleigh Town Hall Annex Building located at 39 Central Street in order to consider the proposal sponsored by the Zoning Review Committee, the ZRC, to amend the Raleigh Protective Zoning Bylaws, the zoning bylaws, by inserting a definition for the agricultural uses in Section 2, the definitions of the bylaws. Also by modifying Section 4.4 of the outlying district use and regulations by deleting Section 4.4.2, subparagraph E on the zoning, well, thank you, David. Forgot my glasses. Modification of Section 4.8, uses permitted in all districts by changing the threshold for permitting agricultural, horticultural, floricultural, or viticultural uses from parcels of land consisting of at least 5 acres to parcels of land consisting of at least 2 acres. The text of proposed bylaws modifications and the text of the proposed bylaw modifications and supplemental materials and exhibits may be inspected at the planning board office at the aforementioned address during regular business hours. Any persons interested or wishing to be heard on the zoning bylaw amendment proposal should appear at the public hearing at the time and place designated. So, and I know we have a couple members of the ZRC here today, so this first one is, from what I understand, we're amending the agricultural uses to bring it into compliance with the right to farm law, am I right?
Yeah, I think, it's essentially we have the right to farm bylaw, which is the general bylaw. I think that's how this started, was like,
Yeah.
with issues, but I think when the ZRC met and discussed the issues, it had to do with the way, which the purview of the ZRC is the zoning bylaw, that they felt that one thing that the bylaw is actually lacking a definition for agriculture. There's nothing, it uses agriculture in those terms in the bylaw, but it doesn't provide the definition. So we discussed adding the definition, which comes from the state code.
So that's word for word from the state code?
Yes,
Yeah.
copied and pasted from the state code. And we could reduce it, but my understanding, is the ZRC thought that maybe the whole thing was sufficient. I did talk to, there were some questions, like from the health department asked, because they've actually been dealing with people who come in and ask about private uses with horses. And my understanding of this definition and the way the building inspector had looked at it is that this definition really focuses on commercial type uses, and that's like one of the things. It really doesn't get into private uses.
Or domestic uses.
And so the small scale, where somebody owns a couple of horses on a property, it doesn't really say anything in regards to that, but it does define for agriculture that you would need a certain. It would provide the definition, and then also provide later in that bylaw, one of the sections changing that the threshold has been set at 5 acre minimum lot size, and where the state code permits 2 acres, and so that's what that's doing.
Well, on that point, the state code says 2 acres provided the farm generates, what is it, $1,000 a
Yeah,
month
the
in revenue, or it's
revenue.
$1,000 a year or something like that.
Yep, yeah. it was-
And-
Is it a year or a month? That's a big
Well,
difference.
A year with
Well,
a year.
well, we talked about this in the ZRC
Annual.
meeting, and, David, you probably remember, I think the
Annual
conclusion
salary.
was that why bother with that, that dollar test? Why not just say if you're okay if it's 2 acres or more?
Well, no.
Because who wants to really get into the issue
Well, I
of,
think you need to, because that's always been problematic with,
I think a lot of the,
that's been problematic with the grandfathering of, in the outlying district with grandfathered businesses. That there has to be some threshold whereby people have to prove that they're still generating income from what they say is a pre-existing business. And it's the same thing, you have to, I mean, if you're gonna get these exemptions and, you know, the advantages of this bylaw, then you should be generating some income. And I think that could also be if someone was going to set up a storefront on a 2-acre property. And, you know, if someone, not saying a lot
it's
of people.
$1,000 per acre.
Yeah, so if someone has 3 acres, they set up a storefront and the neighbors start screaming, I mean, they should at least,
Yeah, but you know what, I don't know, we're not talking about, you know, an automotive shop or a machine shop, we're talking about agriculture, so, you know.
Farm stand, I suppose.
Farm stand, so
And up in
if
a-
someone wants to sell their tomatoes at the front of the street, should we really be requiring them to show that they're making $1,000 per, at least
Yeah,
$1,000 per?
well, I
acre?
guess I shouldn't
Say
conflate the
the
two, the outlying, I probably shouldn't conflate the two, you're right.
and a lot of
I mean,
the,
if someone's got hens and they wanna sell their eggs at the street, you know, you
That's-
see
that's-
people do that, I mean.
That's
People
different than
do it
someone
anyway,
trying to
but-
come up with
Yeah, people
bogus
do it.
receipts for an auto
That's
body
why I
shop,
wouldn't
yeah.
tech-
And
Yeah,
s-
right.
speak on behalf of the building inspector, he actually specifically was against having to involve any enforcement in trying to figure out what revenues.
He has enough,
Yeah,
I was
that
just about to
it'd be
bring that
actually
up
hard to
next, who's gonna
enforce
enforce it,
that.
I was about to
Yeah.
bring that up.
And a lot of a lot of the
Can you have
fiscal.
to, you have to
was-
say who you are, because it's. a
Oh, I'm
public
sorry,
hearing,
Libby
so-
Tucker from the Agricultural Commission.
Okay, thanks.
A lot of the fiscal limits have to do with 61A, which this is not, you know, to be able to maintain your 61A as well, so.
Oh, I see
And
what
this,
you mean.
you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's not really, it's, yeah, whether you can have a farm stand or not, or be called a business.
Or sell your eggs on the
Or-
side of
You
the.
sell your eggs or
Some
your
road,
tomatoes on the side of the road, but
I mean, if
people do it anyway, you know.
If your
this brings them in
wants to sell
compliance.
tomatoes at the front of the street, technically you'd have to show, you prove that you're making
Lemonade stands get shut
$1,000
down.
a year.
Yeah.
You know, kids' lemonade stands.
Well, luckily this town they don't, in towns like Boxford, they've had some lawsuits about, pre-existing farms, and like Inglesby, there's been ongoing, neighborhood disputes that I don't think are necessary, in my opinion, because it was a pre-existing, obviously farmed land, and someone just had problem with what they were selling out of the stand, you know, was it some, and that's how ridiculous, you know, is it something that's totally grown in Massachusetts, like, all the time, it's like, it's kinda hard to make a living, you know, such a short growing season, and
Right.
it's like, you know, the farmer's market when we have on the common, that's like, you can't just restrict that to, you know, people should be able to grow, sell some other things, right? You know, that are agriculturally related, you know? And so that, I don't know what the outcome of that was, but
This
I'm
designation, though,
sure the
is
state supports that kind of activity, that's.
a parcel that avails itself of this designation doesn't change its own tax status, it's still.
No.
Right,
No.
so.
That's what you were saying.
61A
Yeah,
is
gotcha.
like 5 acres plus, I think you
Yeah,
have,
that's
I think you have to
different.
have 5 acres of usable land, your house is 1 acre, so you technically.
That's what changed the
That's
tax.
six.
So there's nothing
Okay,
here
gotcha.
besides
So-
really clarification, right?
Yeah, it's more like a clarification.
Well, no.
Meshing with the state.
It's
with the
matching in
state
with the
is-
state.
No, it's not,
Yeah.
it's a change, because now it says, that the farm has to be at least 5 acres, and that's
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
law used to provide, but then
That's what I'm saying, it's a
they changed it
clarification.
to 2, so we're just complying, amending it to comply with the state law,
It is
so.
the threshold.
So we're in sync with
That's
state law, and
changed
so
as
what's
far
the
as
big
threshold.
issue?
Well, but there's another issue that we need to talk about, though.
Okay.
And I realized this today when I read this memo from the state more
Yeah.
closely.
Yeah.
We really didn't have time to look at it closely, at least I didn't. So, on page 2, at the first paragraph, there is a very succinct statement of what the current law requires, beginning with 4 parcels. So it says, 4 parcels zoned for agriculture Now, in this town, that would be the outlying district, because our outlying district, if you look at the preamble, it says that the outlying district is a district that's intended for agricultural use.
Always has been.
So I would say that our outlying district is an area that's zoned for agriculture. So for parcel zoned for agriculture, the exemption for farming activities shall apply to parcels of any size. So in other words, for those parcels that are zoned for agriculture, a town can't impose any size limitations. So what we would be doing with this article is deleting the section in the outlying district which allows agriculture and doesn't even talk about a size limitation.
And this supplanting.
So you're saying we should
And
not,
essentially saying that those parcels would have to be at least 2 acres in size.
So the
So
state law doesn't require that.
Again,
Well,
it's state
it
law.
would violate state
Yeah,
law.
right.
so
So
we should leave E.
we should leave that section in,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, that makes sense, yeah.
That's a good.
And then, so to summarize, in the outlying district, the town can't say you have to have at least 2 acres. In the other districts, we can, and it would be 2 acres. The
You
size
can't have
limit
it both
would be
ways, is what you're saying. You can't have it, you can't say that the outlying district is for agriculture and
Yeah,
then the
right.
state says there's no, if you say it's for agriculture, that there's no size limit.
Right, so,
Yeah.
for example, if you're in the outlying district, theoretically, you could have a 1 acre farm. If you're in the central district, well, really, where else would it apply? If you're in the central district, you would have to have a 2 acre
Yeah.
plot.
And that may apply to some people.
It does, yeah, there are some larger parcels in the
Parcels,
central
yes.
district.
So you're not gonna take E out, where it says to modify it, you're gonna leave 4.42 and not take the E out, or?
I think we have to, yeah, what I'm saying is we have to leave E in, because if we take that out, it's creating a problem with the state law.
Do they have my other question is similar, it doesn't change on the outlying district, does it change that if I have an acre of land and decide to sell vegetables or something, the right to farm for the reduction in, what is it, with the taxes or how you do it, that has to be at least 5 acres or more?
This has nothing to do with
Okay.
the tax.
61A, no.
That's a
Okay.
whole separate thing.
All right, because I was thinking dozens of people coming in and saying they
No.
want,
You got an agriculture exemption.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, no, that they need.
This has nothing to do with it. Again, if you wanna, have a CSA or something like that, you wanna raise and sell vegetables, this would allow you to do it. In the outlying district, regardless of how big
Lot size,
Acreage.
okay.
lot size.
I'll bet you that's one of the questions somebody will bring up at town meeting when this is being presented.
So that's no change, because
I
now,
know, but
now
now,
for the outlying district, there is no size limitation. Remember, we talked about this, Kurt? And that's what I thought the interpretation was.
Yeah,
I
So
think,
Kirk, our recommendation tonight is to go back to the ZRC for them to take those, our,
I don't think it has to go
No, I
back to
think
the
we have to go
ZRC, we
back.
could just.
okay, so how are we gonna get the ZRC to amend what they're gonna put on the warrant?
Well, I don't think that
based
they
on our
made a
comments?
recommendation.
to us.
we send it to.
Oh,
somebody.
okay, gotcha, so
Yeah.
we'll ultimately,
Do you think we have to go back to the ZRC?
No.
Bob?
No.
It's just based on this discussion.
Yeah, and really, it's just
No, I
it's
just
just
wanted
a
to see
small,
that.
a small modification, really.
Yeah, and it just gets it all mesh and.
Because we write the.
We're gonna write, we have to write the actual text of the bylaw change.
And your point's a technical point, it comes out of the agriculture.
Right.
No, it is a technical.
Yeah, it's very good. I don't think they would object to
Yeah,
it.
nobody would object to it.
Okay.
The chairman's here and he's,
Bob, do you have any comments?
and 2 members are here.
You have any comments?
No, I mean, we pretty much kicked it around when the committee met.
Right.
And we went back and forth, and we decided to come up with what we have, and we just made that small change, which
Yeah.
basically we just missed it.
Right.
We should be fine.
All right, well, is there anybody else from the community that wants to have any input on this issue?
That's a good catch.
Based on,
I make a motion
great,
And this is the first time.
to approve the language with the removal of the modifying of what, 4.4.2E?
to remove the dimensional requirements.
In the outlying district.
Let Cliff make the motion.
Yeah, I think,
Is that pretty much it?
Covered it.
pretty much it.
A second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
All in favor of approving the language with the amendments we discussed today?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
And I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All in
Second.
favor?
Second,
Aye.
All right, so, thank you for
next.
time on that. We'll move on to the next item. Okay. I wanna make sure I'm looking at the right one.
Illumination,
John's letter really
illumination of signs. I don't see any.
Oh, I,
Lighting, okay, there we go. Okay, so pursuant to Massachusetts General Law 40A, Section 5, the Raleigh Planning Board will hold a public meeting on Wednesday, February 15th at 7:45 in the meeting room number 5 in the Town Hall Annex Building located at 39 Central Street in Raleigh in order to consider a proposal sponsored by the Zoning Review Committee to amend Section 8.6.5 of the Raleigh Protective Zoning Bylaw, the zoning bylaw, to permit the outdoor external illumination of freestanding signs from fixtures installed above or below the sign, which include the permitting of the use of ground-mounted lighting fixtures, provided all the fixtures comply with the requirements of the zoning bylaw, section 8.6.5.5, which stipulates that the fixtures shall be shielded to prevent glare to pedestrian and vehicular traffic. The text of the bylaw modifications and supplemental materials and exhibits may be inspected at the planning board office at the aforementioned address during regular business hours. Any persons interested in wishing to be heard on the zoning proposals should appear at the public hearing at the time and place designated. So, we'll open,
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're,
See how this would be easier, Kirk, if this was all combined into one?
So you're
next, you got next, there's always next year.
You're moving it along.
Yeah. So once again, we're here to discuss a minor amendment to the zoning bylaw to deal with some of the illumination of freestanding signs. We've had a couple of petitions this year that have dealt with this issue, and we've run into some issues where applicants have sought to apply lighting to their signage that was inconsistent with the code, but when they showed us other examples of similar signage in town, well, it turns out most people have
Doing the same thing.
we're doing the same thing. So what we're really doing is recognizing that what we were previously prohibiting isn't so much of a detriment that we shouldn't consider allowing it, and in fact we are considering allowing it. So so long as we meet the important public objective, which is to protect public safety from glare and light pollution that would emit from it. So
That's a good way of putting it, well put.
okay,
Um,
good.
You need to read the letter we got.
You can read the letter. You want to read the letter? Might as well.
Well, I mean, I was actually, I understood that he's Mr.
Petrowitz.
Petrowitz,
He's not here.
not here tonight.
I think the letter has two components to it, or two sides to it, you know. Initially, I think some valid points are made about consistency of enforcement. And the second one, I think there's some very good suggestions going forward. I don't agree completely with all of them, and one of them is technical that I can't really comment on. I think in terms of, you don't want to make, if you make a point that enforcement has been difficult, that the planning board, with the premise that the planning board is not necessarily the enforcement entity in the town for this, but we're the
We are
permitting
not.
entity,
Right.
that I think the point that's well taken is that we need to, through the process, maybe have some checks that would preclude having to enforce on the end result, you know? So, and that's a good point, but if you go to the going forward part, which I think is,
Do you want me to read it?
yeah,
I don't see that he actually is opposed to what we're proposing to do.
well, that's what I was saying, I think the second part is more, I think some positive, constructive requirements going forward that could be integrated into what we already have, and just some recommendations for the planning board as kind of a review board that should look at these things from not only a technical, but also an overall town, what the town is trying to achieve by the lighting bylaw.
I'm at a disadvantage, because I don't have a copy of the letter.
But all I'm saying is that I just wanna bring one thing up, just for the board's discussion, that I
Do you
think.
think we might be prudent just to allow Kirk to read it, so we can
Yeah,
all,
okay, yeah, read the whole thing. I think it's good, I mean, because I think John
certainly
was,
took the time to tell us.
he was very, you know, and from way back, when this thing was first conceived, he was kinda integral in the, what, the concept of it. Go ahead.
Okay, dear Chairman Thornton and board members, the proposed bylaw changes to section 8.6 is noted in the January 25th Town Common newspaper public announcement should be done with caution and understanding its impact. As author and technical expert of this bylaw since May 1999, section 8.6.5 was specifically written at the request of town and public safety officials to protect public safety and to reduce overall light pollution. Proposed changes allowing ground and sign bottom mounted illumination will continue the degradation of the night vision that is occurring along the roadways and the sidewalks of Raleigh. Many signs, even after the bylaw passage, are currently in violation of the current bylaw, and town enforcement needs attention. Corrective action of these installations is non-existent. Shielding of these non-conforming installations is lacking, and the introduction of LED luminaires are exacerbating the problem even further. Many installations are not ground mounted, but sign bottom mounted, still a violation. The planning board review of sign installations and support for corrective actions of non-conforming signs needs improvement. An outright allowance of ground bottom mounted sign illumination via this bylaw change will expand and continue visual degradation and increase overall light pollution, especially on foggy and snowy nights. Accident litigation may become an issue as a result of the non-enforcement and bylaw changes may compound this issue going forward. Illumination of signage is not insurmountable, and several Raleigh commercial signs are well designed. All commercial businesses should be proud of their illuminated signage and that it complies with town standards and complements their property and the town. They seem to accept and comply with other technical town requirements and standards. Why is this a problem to some? Installers of signage, including electricians, need to understand the issues resulting from improper sign illumination and the risk it presents to the public and their installer liability. Going forward, should the board decide to promote a bylaw change, the following extra specifications should be incorporated into the new bylaw wording so as to help define the requirements for bottom-mounted sign illumination. Number 1, applicant installation design review must be planning board approved. Number 2, complete technical luminaire cut sheet, photometric plots, and mechanical drawings of the sign design and site must be planning board approved. Planning board physical site installation review, a site visit must be conducted before sign activation to confirm bylaw compliance. Number 4, future changes, luminaire, sign structure, location, rebuild, etc. of installations must seek planning board review and approval. 5, all ground and bottom, including angled and off to the side mounted sign luminaires shall be specifically targeted onto the sign area only. No overspill, overshoot, or uplight illumination beyond the perimeter of the sign structure is allowed. Number 6, eternal sign luminaires shall be 2,000 lumens or less. Number 7, the last one, all ground-mounted luminaires will be fully shielded mechanically or with mature coniferous vegetation, completely blocking all sign illumination from vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic, and no light trespass onto adjoining property is allowed. In closing, gentlemen, I hope the board acts first and appropriately on behalf of the residents living and making their homes in this town and are not merely for the convenience of others. Sincerely, John Petrowitz, 36 Cary Avenue.
I thought his list of points on the second page are all good ones.
No,
Yeah,
I don't
actually, some
totally,
of them are.
I said most, but
Well,
I said they're not all good, all of them.
Well,
I think so, good.
he's got,
They
well,
put another layer.
he's got a
extra-
lot, I think he's got a lot of good points, but
Yeah.
what I was gonna go with this is saying, that this is a special permit determination, so we can incorporate some of these into our review. And I mean,
This letter,
I was
he
gonna say
hasn't
that
seen
too,
the
and not in the
language.
bylaw per
Right.
se.
I
Yeah,
think
so
that-
certainly, the requirements of the cut sheets, on the.
They're already there, man, it happens.
Right, we see, I know that we've had different,
No, it
sign
happens.
installers that have different, empirical ways to measure these things, and that's
No,
been a
but we
question.
do, we get photometric cut sheets all the time.
Do we?
For every
Okay.
new
Yeah.
sign,
We
yeah.
can ask for it, but it's not required as.
Well, we get them usually, we
And we
ask
could
for
adopt
them.
that as a
In
rule.
commercial, yeah.
When
commercial
we ask for them in
situations.
commercial, we get them
Yeah.
for overspill and where.
But-
I mean, I think, in other words, when we review one of these signs, we should be asking, maybe not all, but at least some of the questions that John is.
Right.
Well,
I see
think that-
something here that I think is really good. And it's kind of like to, maybe prevent, future, enforcement issues. That there's they have a, where is that, the checklist? Was that before? Future changes.
So this
No, he
site
had,
visit
when,
before,
during the installation, there
Yeah.
was like,
site review before,
Before activation.
no, we have the
activation.
site review, but during the, make sure that whatever in the bylaw needs to be, adhered to is checked off during the process, so we can see it from beginning to end, that's all. Almost like when someone is applying for a building permit, the building department has a similar type of thing.
well, that is,
Well,
Where is that?
You
He's
can
got it
get
in here somewhere.
Get it at the C of O, and.
But then it's too late.
I mean, a lot of times they have a C of O when they're applying for a sign, they've already got a C of O.
Does he have it?
So we don't have that secondary,
You're right.
and I think that could just be a
But
condition
I'm
of the special
thinking- I'm
permit.
thinking some of these same problems apply to buildings too.
Sure.
You got a water
Oh,
department.
enforcement is
so-
always-
I don't know where, God, I must be making stuff up. The other thing I think is very difficult, and maybe I just don't know enough about the industry, but I've seen it certainly in my own experience, in seeing a lot of commercial signage and having to deal with town boards about it, is that when you say an absolute, like no overspill, overshoot, or uplight illumination beyond the perimeter of the sign is allowed, I mean, that's like,
You can turn the language around, the intent of the lighting is to light the sign or something like that.
exactly.
But
And I
you-
think that's,
But,
again,
The absolute, I see that being as a little bit, you're right, any overspill, I mean, how do you, I'm sure that there's somebody that can measure it, but we're not gonna go out there and measure what's overspill and what's actually just light on the sign.
and if there is overspill, you have to like plant it, 8-foot, hemlock.
To cover the sign.
Or
that you're trying to
arborvitae,
illuminate.
it's like, and mature is another one of
Well,
those
mature
words.
is not a,
Mature is a little bit subjective,
Yes.
there is.
I do want to point out, he's actually pointing out he's indicating that enforcement in I think in an absolute way that is actually not done in any other application of the zoning bylaw. The building inspector, as far as I know, doesn't go out looking to find zoning bylaw violations. He responds to complaints of violations, and
Right.
there haven't been any formal complaints of light trespass, except for these general complaints, which, I mean, this is more of a complaint about how the bylaw is being.
Well, this is a complaint by somebody that has a personal interest in it,
Well,
from
who
the
actually-
perspective of having written the bylaw and wants to see it enforced,
Well,
but,
former
yeah.
lighting enforcement, but he's actually it seems to be that it's a request to do generalized enforcement and proxy.
and yet the only time, granted, I'm not the building inspector, but the only time I've heard these issues come up is when somebody else that's coming down here that wants to do ground up illumination has said to us,
Yeah.
I can show you a dozen other signs that have the same, so why can't I do it? And
Which I think is what generally.
I think his overall premise is a good one, I mean, it just needs to be, back.
And we
as a
received
board.
that letter, that he produced that letter in response to seeing the ad and the thing, so he hadn't seen the language. I think some of the additional review that's covered because it's a special permit.
That's a good point.
Shielding is part of this change.
I mean, we absolutely address the
Yeah.
safety for pedestrian and vehicular traffic as part of the, that's the
Yeah,
standard we're using.
yeah, and I do think, I wonder if like maybe if at some point you might wanna consider stronger language in terms, or being more explicit about that, that a violation would be based on being a nuisance or a public safety violation. Which I think if you actually go looking for those, you don't really find very many
Yet,
situations like
I mean, I think that we wanna issue orders that on their face can be enforced, not just if they're subsequently found to be a public safety
you know.
issue. So I don't think we wanna further condition the enforceability of our orders on subsequent, hazards that might develop. I think we just, I think in this instance, if anybody was objecting, they would have went to the planning board, but from what I understand, there hasn't been anybody that's ever filed, complaint specifically, and we always have public safety input into anything we approve, so, when we have the towns, the chief of police, the fire department, the highway department looking at these signs in advance, if they have a comment, if they see something, we're gonna be, hopefully we'll vet those issues before we.
There's been a couple issues where they've been brought up and the party has fixed it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think we're pretty strict on full cutoff
Coughlin
fixtures,
fixed
right?
it at,
Yeah.
The parking lots, are you pretty
Plaza.
with full
Well,
cutoffs?
It's in the bylaw, and we always put that requirement in our decisions, but I was noticing the lighting for the medical daycare.
That's actually, he's,
I was kind of shocked by the glare from the lights.
yeah, that's because the pitch, what they come with 3 pitches, and when they install them at the highest pitch, which is pointing straight out, horizontal. Mr. Coughlin said that they had the option, and they were gonna go, I need to follow up and find out when he's going to adjust, they have to take them down and adjust the
Oh,
pitch so
good,
that it's
because
at the
they're
lowest.
pretty rough on the eyes. I don't know if it's a public safety issue, but geez, it's just.
If anything's, that might be the closest, more like a nuisance, I think, than anything. That, but at the same time, they would cite that there are public safety issues. I mean, just like, if you go out, like, this parking lot is much better lit than it used to be. And on a snowy night, like when you have ice and all that, I think it's safer to have lights like this. And
Well,
I think that's what he's saying, it's liability, there's a liability safety
No, I don't
issue,
know.
being
you
able
can
to
get
see.
cut-off lights that do
Yeah.
the same thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, not.
I think he's talking about liability more in the sense that someone is blinded coming down a road.
Because I've seen those lights.
Well, no, he's talking about liability for people, like a
A customer who's there late at night
yeah,
or
late
in
at
the
night,
parking
trying to
lot.
cross the parking lot and doesn't see a patch of ice and falls down, and,
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you need to shoot your light into, into 1, 2,
Right.
3.
no, but it is easier to see. Actually,
I think
Well,
there are
it's
important,
designed
there's
where the light-
there's 3 important goals here,
yeah,
Overspill into adjacent properties. The light pollution, like you were saying, vertical, so we don't end up with, a glare in the sky, which they don't want in a rural community. And, thirdly, for vehicular traffic being blinded by, that those are 3 things that you just don't want to happen.
Right.
But at the same time, you want to give commercial properties the ability to
Well, of course.
advertise and to let people know when their property is open and when it's in business,
Most of the time, it's the choice of the wrong fixture.
Mhm.
Now, I don't understand the 2,000 lumens, 2,000,
Not that
Is
technical,
is that what's in there now?
yeah,
I don't know.
for which.
Is that something, the 2,000 lumens, that they can't exceed that?
Yeah, I think that's the,
Is that what the standard is now?
Not very much, is it?
Doesn't seem like a lot, right, compared to what I see in light bulbs.
Yeah, I bought a light bulb for the change, it was 3,000.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, 2,000 lumens.
So the
That's
internal
not-
illumination can't exceed.
External sign luminaires may not, I thought, to me, that seemed a little low.
Well,
But I don't know enough about it to necessarily.
I think, I think a lot of, some of John's points are very well taken. However, this isn't a by right change we're contemplating here. It would still be a special
It's a
permit.
realistic change.
And the board can take a lot of these issues into consideration in deciding whether to grant a waiver. So I think we should, I don't
This
see
in future
anything
boards.
prevent us to, well, it's always a problem.
And
So
based on the photometric data and the plan that's before us.
We're doing this to provide a little more flexibility in the bylaw, so.
And, right.
But,
A little
so,
more flexibility, a little more consistency with how we permit these
Well,
things.
we're not trying to exacerbate spillover to that, so that people are blind to going down Route 1. you know?
But I would like to propose a couple changes in the language. And I know we talked about this at the DRC meeting, but basically, I think we should make this a waiver determination. So in other words, the requirement is that for these signs, the lights should be pointing down, but that the planning board can waive that requirement, which in my mind means that we have to actually consider it and decide whether to grant it, as opposed to just saying you can do either downlighted or upward lighted, which may cause some developers to feel, well, we have a choice, you know?
Sure.
So we should make it clear that they need a waiver.
I like
And
that
that-
idea.
I think so too, and then at least when we look at that,
But see, that's in conflict because all the ones that are down, the ones that exist are already there and they're in violation. So this way it takes them out of violation.
Not
Not
necessarily.
if they don't have a waiver.
But they didn't get it? Did we give waivers necessarily in the past?
But it
We're
doesn't
allowed
take them
to.
out of,
they're not in compliance with the order that was issued.
But does a special permit,
Those are still, they're out of
so
compliance.
is it all or nothing, but
no
I'm
matter
saying
what,
special
they're out of
permit,
compliance.
if it's reviewed under a special permit, doesn't that imply that it's a waiver?
If they were approved by the board, but a lot of these signs weren't approved by the board, right?
No, but going forward, if we actually give out the special permit,
Yeah,
it's like
right.
getting a waiver, right?
Right. It is, yeah, if we issue a special permit, but my point is that,
Because you said this is under special permit, right?
right, it is, but
So isn't
there
it kind
should,
of,
there should be language,
is that redundant? That's what I'm saying.
no, it's not redundant, there should be language that tells us, the board members, that it's our responsibility to actually look at this issue and decide if it's okay, rather than simply, rubber stamping it. And the developer should know that as well, that if he wants to have upward pointing lights,
So,
that he has to persuade us that
So
they're.
in the application.
So he's done everything that we,
Right.
otherwise, the cutoffs, the no overspill.
So it should be in the application, actually ask for it and give supporting.
Yeah, just like a waiver for parking.
For car.
And give,
waiver for
and give
cause,
supporting information to,
Yeah.
support that.
Just like for parking, we have these parking rules, say how many spaces you need, except we routinely waive them, but the developer has to justify the reduction.
And ask for it.
Right, and then
Officially,
we
more
approve it or deny it, be the same thing.
In a way, you're saying
Because it's not part of
it's the
special permit,
existing
it's a formal
language, but
request.
we're
Right.
adding a clause about that you can get a waiver from the.
Well, yeah,
it's
so-
still top down.
So how do
So,
you?
top
Yeah,
down,
so the presumption would be it's still downlights,
Down like.
except that, and this is the language I think we should be, is except that the planning board may waive this requirement
Okay.
if it determines, yada, yada, yada.
Okay,
You two check
Yeah.
it together.
yeah, all right.
And Kirk and I can work
Yeah.
together and together we'll try to come up with the technical.
Yeah, I think that the analogy
Precise
with
language.
parking, I think is a good one.
But another change I'd like to make, and I just noticed this in going over the language today, is that there's a section, there's 8654, which is the one we've been talking about. It talks about externally illuminated signs shall be, have downward pointing lights. But it says except as provided in section 86541, which is the section dealing with wall-mounted lights. So those those can be pointed up. But it occurred to me that if we eliminate that language, except as provided in that section, and change 86541 to say externally illuminated freestanding signs shall be pointed downward, we don't need that except for language. Do you know what, you follow me? I mean,
Yeah,
So by calling
So
them
in other
freestanding
words,
signs.
the first section, we'd revise it, and this is just a clarification, really, it's not a substantive change, but we'd revise the first section to apply to freestanding signs. And we basically said, for freestanding signs, the lights have to be pointed down unless the board issues a waiver,
right.
etc. And the next section would be, as it is now, for wall-mounted signs.
86541
yeah.
is for wall mounted.
Right. And what does that one say? It
It's
says,
gonna do a substantive change.
it's not a specific, it's not a,
Yeah,
You
the,
can do semantics and
Building
make it in
mounted
concert
facades.
with the existing bylaw.
we can do it now, without
So rather than say accept as provided, we're gonna go with, for freestanding signs, for freestanding externally illuminated signs, without mention to the exception.
Yeah,
And
right.
then, just by,
So that, yeah, so
and then
that's,
the next section is wall mounted.
so the next section, when you look at the language, it says building mounted facade signs may be illuminated from the bottom of the sign. So basically, if you take,
Because
make
it's
this
on the building,
change,
yeah.
you would end up having two sections, one for freestanding signs, one for building mounted signs. And the bylaw would say for freestanding signs, the lights have to be pointing up. But for building mounted signs, they may be illuminated from the bottom, provided the following conditions are met. Seems to me that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, okay.
It still achieves the same.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
oops, sorry.
No problem. So, I'm comfortable with those changes too.
Okay.
Any comment from the public?
Yeah, you don't want any conflict with anything else that already exists.
No.
Ever had any question about any of the signs in town? They all, good.
Okay, I've done more people come here.
So,
Yeah, no.
I think we can,
I could make a motion,
we make a motion on that?
make a motion that we do the rewrite as presented by Cliff in conjunction with the town planner.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right,
So I think we passed with unanimous consent. Then we got a motion to close.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
second?
We're gonna close the public hearing on, the second item for tonight, which is these illuminated signs. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we're gonna, wrap it up. Okay, pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5, the Raleigh Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 15th at 8 p.m. in the meeting room, number 5, in the Town Hall Annex, building located at 39 Essex Central Street in Raleigh, Massachusetts, in order to consider a proposal sponsored by the Zoning Review Committee to amend Section 4.6, uses permitted in the retail zoning district of the Raleigh Protective Zoning Bylaw, the bylaw, to permit a pharmacy with drive-through facilities to be developed on parcels located within the retail district with planning board special permit approval. The text of the bylaw modifications, supplemental material, and exhibits may be inspected at the planning board offices at the aforementioned address during regular business hours. Any persons interested in wishing to be heard on the zoning bylaw amendment proposal should appear at the public hearing at the time and place designated. So, again, we're considering an amendment to the bylaw that would allow applicants who are seeking to build pharmacies to add a drive-through window in the retail district.
Ask them.
And,
Yeah, so pass the.
well, I don't think we have any specific applicant that's proponent of this. Nonetheless, I think the town sees that there's a possibility that a developer would come forward and it seems like the potential, one of the potential uses would be that large retail pharmacy, and it seems like all those models these days are requiring a drive-through, where this town may want to attract that type of development in town. That's why we're considering it.
And it has special permit review, and that's all.
Right, so we do
It's
retain,
by special permit.
by special permit, so we do retain the discretion to consider it.
Now, the town has, what, 2 grandfather drive-through situation?
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's,
The bank?
No.
The
Right,
banks.
right, and those,
Banks can have drive-through.
right, but it's,
Banks,
I
well,
think
yeah,
it's, I
banks
think
are-
it's more
banks are
Dunkin'
already here in
Donuts,
the
it's
bylaw.
Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's.
bank, where's it say?
Those are, as far as I know, those are the only 2 other ones.
Banks,
That's, when you look at the special permit section, it talks about.
that's what I'm saying, it's by special permit. But it's not by right, it's by special permit,
Right.
so.
Well, so,
So it's just the omission was for pharmacy.
but there's one, there is a change we have to make here. There's a section in the retail uses that says what type of businesses need a special permit. And there's another section that says what types of businesses need site plan review only. And you put this, added this change to the section dealing with site plan.
Okay,
And I remember we talked about this at the ZRC meeting, and I thought the conclusion was that this should be in the special permit section.
okay, okay.
So that's the only change.
Was the
that I-
board think it should be?
Well, I think it
Does
definitely.
anybody, how about the people in the,
Well, my concern is that it's Route 1, it's the retail district, and I think it's long overdue. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know it, that CVS is looking to do a standalone next to Spuds.
but we have to make it.
I
clear
know,
that
you're
this
making
board-
it in
this
general
board
for
is looking-
anybody,
it's a
but
general change,
it's
yeah.
long over, it's long
not zoned for
overdue.
any particular
That's one of the concerns I have as just a resident of the town for 45 years, that these zoning changes take, I hate to say it, take forever, but the bottom line is that these businesses bring in tax money to a town that is dying. We need more tax revenue that doesn't put an impact on our schools and some other stuff. It's just, I just wanna see that these things move through more smoothly, and I'm in favor of this for a pharmacy drive-through. And even if there was some other stuff that would be added.
Right, I don't think anyone's opposed to that. I think the only thing we're talking about now is whether
To-
it's site plan review only or a special permit. And I think generally speaking, the larger the type of business you're talking about, the more we want it to be a special permit determination.
Is it for more control over
There's
what
more
they do
There's more control
than
and
just a
discretion.
plan going
Right, so
through?
if it was just like a mom and pop pharmacy, it might be a site plan review only, but we know no one opens mom and pop pharmacies anymore. They're gonna be big stores with drive-throughs and lots of parking, so.
Do you wanna see how many spaces backup you have, and what the landscaping might be, and where it's located in regards to the pharmacy inside?
And we also have, I mean, knowing the type of retail store that we're trying to attract, we don't have a lot of discretion about setting hours, but at least with a special permit, we do have the ability to consider their hours of operation and that type of thing, where with a site plan
Yeah.
review, we wouldn't necessarily have
Yeah,
that
to my-
discretion.
Yeah, to my knowledge, I mean, and someone agreement is that in many towns in their use tables, put SP, special permit, on types of uses that are more multifaceted and a little more complex. You know,
Yeah.
to give that little layer of review beyond more, you know,
Than just a
site
plan.
plan, you know.
Right.
just, you know, the infrastructure, you know, cause site plan review doesn't involve a lot of the nuances that go along with these complex projects, that's all.
And that's, you know, as I said before, I just would like to see some more. There's plenty of property, and I mean, we've seen some different businesses coming in and some going out, but it's just, you know, I'd like to really see some more retail businesses in town, but at
That would
this
be
point.
nice, I mean,
It would be nice, but at this point, if we can get a pharmacy that wants to come in and have a drive-through, I'm all in favor of it.
And something decent maybe next to, you know, next to McDonald's or something, you know.
Well,
It seems like we're kinda like stuck with a lot of, we haven't had a lot. And I thought,
Yeah.
for example, when this board, when the winery opened up, and they took a chance being a little bit outside the typical zone, you know, a little bit beyond, and hopefully they're doing okay, but I think that was the kind of, I'd like to see like more things happen that are different than what we already have.
And what opened up?
You know, the winery.
Oh,
the wine.
Wine- right.
Because that was kind of a mixed, you know,
Mhm.
they had a retail component to it, you know, and also attracted visitors.
Yep.
And once you attract visitors, then that spill over into other businesses.
And that's exactly, I mean, I went to the PTA meeting last night, and several of the mothers, there's one woman who has 3 children, she says she has to go over to Georgetown for there, and I'm looking at more people coming into town, they're gonna be using the banks, they'll be using the CVS or whatever drugstore it is, they'll go to the diner, all these other things, and not just with the pharmacy with the drive-through, some more businesses. Everybody benefits from when we bring people in from other towns, even if it's only for an hour for shopping, or to go to TJ Maxx.
They'll go to the medical clinic, and after that, they'll
Absolutely,
go to
the
the
medical
pharmacy to
clinic,
pick
go
up
over
their
and
prescription.
get lunch or something, right.
Right.
It's, or do their shopping, you're absolutely right, or the other thing that was discussed last
Well,
week.
and, I mean, I think there's a lot,
Yeah, we've been open, and medical clinics, you know, that was a parcel that.
I mean, this would open the door
That's a big deal.
for this large-scale retail investment that would also potentially bring in something like a walk-in clinic. I know there's a
Right.
possibility that
Right.
might exist at the facility on the other side of Haverhill Street, but, you know, some of these new retail pharmacies also offer those services, which is something that I think the town,
I mean,
you know, certainly would want to consider if they were interested in doing it.
I don't think there's a huge deal in the sense that it's different than what we're already doing. It's just more in line with what these larger pharmacies, and there's a lot of consolidation in the pharmacy and,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
consolidation that's still ongoing. That this is the kind of designs that they prefer, that's all.
Yeah.
Right.
So if they're gonna situate in a town, they're either gonna yank out and go elsewhere. They kinda need this as a prerequisite for them.
They do, because if they're going to get to be bigger,
That's
that's what they need.
that's what they want.
That's what they want, you know, you take a look at any of the Walgreens, CVS's, any of them. So this is the stuff that's, you know, and you hate to say it, but
Well,
this
I'm
is
not-
what's coming to town, because we
and
still
yet-
have our own little one, you know, I don't wanna call them mama papa, we have the pharmacy that's been here for a long time, but
Ipswich has Conley's, yeah.
but the problem is, a lot of these medical plans now specify if you have to do, you know, 90 days or something, it's gotta be through certain ones, and
Right.
that's it.
So, there is a prohibition presently against these type of windows, except for the drive-throughs. And yet I don't have the, you know, the memory here in town to be able to tell you where that came from. Was there something behind that push? I mean, you know, I think.
I don't know, Rob, do you wanna say anything?
Right, I don't wanna
Fast
necessarily-
food restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, fast food, okay,
McDonald's?
yeah.
Before my time, but yeah, I guess we just.
California, they have I know, it's, you know.
It's just here.
She was just today on one of the
Wasted
shows I
gas.
was watching,
Wasted fuel.
they have a drive-through for a funeral home.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, yeah.
Right, but I mean, it's, you know, drive-throughs are for everything, but I mean, it's with, like you say, with the special permit or however you wanna do it, or the
Yeah.
site plans, it's as
Yeah,
long as we can
Florida
start
has
to
drive-through
move.
liquor stores.
Right.
The
Uh,
brew-through,
We
yeah.
Yeah, pull through.
We have a drive-through convenience store in Winchester, I mean, originally.
A drive-through convenience.
But I mean, the problem is we just
For
need
milk
to,
and
we,
wine.
I'd like to just see us keep moving forward, not, you know, I said it before when I went to the original committee, I'm not looking for us to look like Route 114, I just want to start to see that I don't have to travel somewhere to do something, it's more or less, it's right here in town.
But there has been some progress, I mean,
Yes.
It has.
some restaurants have taken the leap and some have succeeded over time.
Yeah.
We
So
have some
it's-
other ones on the, you know, we have other ones in, you know, that are being proposed in the planning process.
And yet this move could,
So,
you know, I think we all can see where it could go, you know, it could end up with a different grocery store, or not different grocery store, but a different build-out for that grocery
Yes.
store, which would bring its own advantages. So I think this is progress that we should be making, and I just wonder if,
Well, I think the market basket needs a makeover. I mean,
Oh,
it's
you
time,
think-
it's time for them to do
Can I-
that.
Well, you're
you
looking
think-
at
Can I move this along?
Yes.
please do.
Oh,
I
can
know.
I just
Great
want, with that,
landscape, four
no,
black
but I
locust
just wanted
trees.
to point out with that
Thanks, aren't those
change,
beautiful?
Yeah, they
with that change,
model.
you can
Are they
have,
native?
you can have a site plan review without a special permit, but you can't have a special permit without a site plan
We
review.
know that.
Do you wanna do both?
Well, it
Or do
is
you wanna
both.
add it to, oh,
It
you add
is.
it to both?
No, but no, if you're
If you add the special
permit,
permit, then you're
automatically
encompassing this, the,
site plan.
Well, I know,
Site
but
plan.
if you have a by right site plan review, do you still want to have that under?
Special permits are heavier duty. You control hours and stuff.
Anything that requires a special permit also requires site plan
Okay,
review.
okay.
All I'm saying that
Do
this
we need
needs to
add-
go, and I think is it 461? I can't remember.
461, no, 462, and then 463. You're asking, you're saying 463 is where we need to add it.
Is that the section that says
Special
these
permit.
businesses need a special permit?
Yeah.
That's where it should go.
Yeah,
And
But
just
I-
add it at the bottom there,
okay,
like you did here.
okay.
So there's no debate, no issue about whether it needs a
That's-
special
Okay,
permit.
okay,
Right.
okay.
all right, so we have
I make
a
it-
motion?
I make a motion that we approve this change in our zoning ordinance with the corrections proposed by Cliff.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So we have a unanimous in favor, we're gonna move to get it allowed as a site plan,
Three
site plan
minor zoning
review.
changes without.
With special permit.
With special permit, I'm sorry, special permit approval.
Where did you advertise these, like in California? Were they in the local area?
Oh, you mean nobody showed up?
So, can we also close the public meeting?
Make a motion, we close the public.
Second. All in favor?
Copy.
So I think we're also I'm gonna move that we adjourn this meeting tonight.
Wait,
You have anything critical?
Well, no, actually,
Sure,
the
yeah, till we-
report
we
of the
gotta
planning
change.
board.
Oh, okay.
give us
You
some
guys read
feedback
that?
on it. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank you.
Approval of that, or not?
Thanks a
No,
lot
no,
for
I
coming.
just,
Wait till the next meeting?
well, I was gonna actually
Well, when they hear the farmers
submit
again.
it. Yeah,
I just saw
wanted to
one,
submit it. Everybody get to read the report?
Oh,
Yeah,
Cliff is the one that has to
Cliff
read.
gave me a.
Kirk,
I've already
did
weighed in
you,
on
did
that.
you already weigh in on the grammatical changes?
The ones that I caught.
I made all the changes that, I've
You made
added
all
the
the changes?
changes, so the copy you have.
But grammar, you hit grammar.
I don't know if I noticed a grammatical.
So you don't have any trouble with content so much?
I am excellent with
I
grammar, so.
think problems. Yeah,
You say so.
Which ones? They're making.
Well, he's changed it, so I can't really show you what I did.
All right, did you, as the planner, did you agree with some of the suggestions from the planning board members?
Oh, yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I made the,
You would know,
Sorry, you made the changes.
were they additive, or do you wanna, were they adding more?
No, generally taking stuff out.
So this is just our annual report to the Board of Selectmen, telling us what we're up to and
yeah.
why you're
Yeah,
indispensable.
you have to, this is something
Yeah.
you put in the,
Yeah.
now this thing
That's the
isn't
main
even,
thing.
this thing doesn't even go to print anymore, it gets put online, right? Is that right, Bob?
No, I think it gets put into a book.
There's some being printed,
Yeah.
But not like before, it used to go to every house.
right, it was by bylaw that they had to go to every house. So they changed that.
But now,
And if this quotation is wrong, Herb, I think.
I put that in as a quotation, I wasn't totally sure if it
I think,
really was a quotation.
The very last sentence of the first paragraph, the planning board's duties include, and I think you're quoting from the statute, right? From Mass Law?
I
Preparation of
couldn't
careful
find- I couldn't
studies.
find it sounds like a quote from somewhere, but
You're not sure where you got it?
I don't, no, I mean, it literally was on, I mean, that's
he's taking it from previous ones and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
No.
that
He's not
language-
reinventing the wheel here?
Yeah, I'm not rewriting it every time, but,
And you took
It-
out,
Well-
It doesn't sound like you're citing authority, but you may be
But-
plagiarizing.
But the
it's not
preparation of
plagiarizing,
careful
it's just-
studies, I mean, that's not
well,
something.
that's
not language
actually
you would
from
use.
that's actually from the master planning section of the Massachusetts General Law.
Yeah.
That actually,
Right,
careful,
that's
careful
what I-
studies, that phrase is used.
Well,
if you-
whatever's
so be
quoted
careful.
has to be quoted, that's all.
there's
I'm saying.
nothing wrong with that, Cliff, if you read what it, if you keep going on.
I don't think the
No, but he's got-
sentence
he's
is
got the-
necessarily a quote, I think
he's
just.
got
A
a
clue
quote,
should
quote.
be, a clue should be a colon,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
and-
necessarily
and-
say the whole
but
phrase.
include
well, whatever.
But
but
the
after-
terminology is
but
taken.
preparation of careful studies and plans,
I thought the whole thing was, I could be wrong, but
and plan, what do you mean? Careful studies and plans,
Yeah,
can't just
careful
say
studies and plans, that's what it says.
yeah, you gotta put an S there.
and he's got an end quote here, which doesn't make any sense.
So,
The
in
operation relocation just-
so you gotta put a colon, preparation, take rid of the capital, right?
Yeah.
Do you realize that this sentence has been in every.
No, that doesn't matter, you asked us to do it, okay?
Why did you do it wrong? Because we always did it wrong.
Okay.
Up
You
till
want me to
Just
really get
record-
going? Do you want me to start getting consistent?
Include, I say we
you know,
include
I
colon,
can get really.
preparation of
crazy
careful
here.
studies and plans, so you're gonna put colon after include, you're gonna drop the capitalization
Report.
in preparation, you're gonna follow plans with an S. To the resources, possibilities, and needs of the town, to report annually to the town meeting regarding conditions of the town,
Consistent sentence structure.
to make master and study plan, and to review
There
and
shouldn't be
submit.
no and here.
So you're gonna scratch that last set of parentheses.
Okay.
In fact, I think you should
You mean
scrap.
quotation.
And after a
Quotations, I'm sorry.
semicolon, you shouldn't have an and and a comma, get rid of the and. Because if you have a colon in your semicolon, some, phrases, or clause, what do they call them? Independent clauses, whatever they are. You don't need an and, right? I don't think you need an and in the end, because you're having a list that comes after the semicolon, the colon.
Okay.
You know the and there to review?
Yeah, I see what you're talking
We
about.
had one.
So, okay, so you're talking about that quotation mark, that one at the end of
Which one did you
protective.
like?
The layout, alteration, relocation, discontinuance of public ways. I think you can lose those quotations
Yeah,
altogether.
well, maybe just take out all of them, especially the one at the end of protective zoning bylaw, because it's just an end quote.
It doesn't bracket anything.
There's no, it doesn't show where the quote begins, so I don't know what you're quoting anyway, so.
You're talking
We're
about
talking about
that last sentence of the first
Yeah.
paragraph.
I think get rid of them.
You don't need quotes.
No,
Include.
he's got quotes here.
I know, that's what I'm saying, you don't need them. You don't need
No, you don't.
them.
We just get rid of that quote that you said. You gotta put a colon there. You gotta
don't
drop
need symbol
capitalization.
Yeah, okay.
I
Alright.
don't need this
Well,
more.
here's the,
Who do you
Yeah,
need
this
signatures from?
Just one more from Mike or
Good, yeah.
Cliff, or,
This
you-
guy.
you
oh, he's
do,
already got one, I already
Okay,
got his.
pass it on to Cliff.
you do have a grammatical thing, Chris, right here, being available to answers. Should be just answer.
To answer, yeah.
That was the one I was looking.
Citizen
And,
queries and
Darn,
concerns,
it's like
either
no
in person.
matter what you try to do.
Just a suggestion, Kurt, too, second to last paragraph, don't start it with moreover. You already have one. So, the planning board has continued its policy.
So, say it again? Well,
Get rid of the moreover starting the sentence.
you don't like moreover?
You already have one
What?
coming up.
Where are you?
You don't really wanna start the sentence, you just wanna just say it. Cause it really doesn't connect.
Oh, is that the one from, is that the one I just gave you?
It's a
Or-
draft I printed up before I came.
Oh, okay, yeah, you might.
That's been
Sorry.
corrected.
That's the corrected, the one, I corrected it, that one, the one you have. is
Underneath
put-
this thing?
Yeah, because
I wanna
Cliff
look
just
at
said
this, I wanna
the,
look at this one, right?
Cliff
Sorry
said
about
the
that, okay,
changes. I
okay.
think it was over
All right,
the
thanks.
weekend.
Alright, sorry about that.
Isn't your
That's what
wife a
I'm saying.
writer?
That's what I'm trying to find.
No,
Oh, that's tough, man.
What was that?
isn't your wife a writer? Can't you have her
Oh, you
review?
changed a lot, okay, I take it all back, sorry.
No, it's good. But I mean, there's what, the sentence, be available during, be available to answer
I'll rip this one up.
citizens' queries and concerns. And I think you can write, well, you can either I would say skip the comma, then just go in person, or by email or telephone. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fine. I think you just use a few too many commas in there.
yeah,
You probably.
there are a few too many comments.
So, like,
Be available to answer citizens' queries and concerns in person or by email or telephone. I mean, I think you can, I would skip the comma after concerns.
Take out the word either,
Yeah, right, take out the word,
or by
either in person
email or telephone.
okay,
Right.
so fewer, okay.
Kirk, overall, I think it's very well written, thank you.
I just, yeah.
And I like the fact you.
Thanks, Cliff.
No, and I like the fact you said that there's quite an increase in activity.
Yeah, that was the main thing to point out, it's like, we actually have, like,
Okay, you got your signatures now, and you got,
Yeah, just keep
what, any other comments or anything that has to be covered, because then I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll accept the second on that.
Are we gonna,
oh, what's that?
Who got a
I
second?
made a motion to adjourn.
did we close the last public hearing?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
Yes, we did.
Okay, so I get a motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, so unanimous, and good.